Hello and welcome. We start with Nigeria, where tensions continue to simmer as protests against the government continue. Nigerian security forces continued an intensive crackdown on rallies over the weekend as thousands continue to take to the streets. Nigerian authorities fired bullets and tear gas at protesters and even at journalists covering the protests against the economic crisis. According to Amnesty International, at least 50 journalists were arrested in Abuja over the weekend. Addressing the nation for the first time since the protests erupted, President Bola Tinubu urged citizens to suspend the rallies and for the bloodshed to end. He also called on young activists to hold dialogue.
As the president of this country, I must ensure public order in line with the constitutional oath to protect the lives and property of every citizen. Our government will not stand idly by and allow a few with a clear political agenda to tear this nation apart. Under the circumstances, I hereby enjoin protesters and the organizers to suspend any further protest and create room for dialogue.
President Tinubu said that he understands the pain and frustration driving these protests and listed out the measures his government is implementing to tackle the crisis. However, Nigerian activists were not satisfied with the president's assurance. They have resisted his plea to end the protests.
From the speech that the president has made so far, if he doesn't address the needs of the Nigerian people by reducing the fuel price back to 200, bringing back subsidy, reducing the cost of education, opening the borders, then he has not spoken.
We are still going for protest today. Maybe with his cabal, we can make another sitting round table to make a good decision and good movement. That's what we do. Today, we are making ground. We are doing shared service here today. Tomorrow, we are still going. That 10 days, I'm sure that 10 days, if they don't answer, we will move further.
In his address, Tinubu blamed people with a clear political agenda behind the violence and said they would be resisted by security forces. At least 13 people were killed in clashes with security forces on the first day of protests on Thursday. As per reports, 3 people were killed in a rally in Nigeria's second largest city of Kano on Saturday. Nigerian police, however, deny using excessive force and say only 7 people have died so far. As per the police breakdown on the death toll, 4 have been killed by an explosive device during a march in northeast Borno State. 2 were hit by a car and another was shot by a guard when protesters looted a shop. Police have blamed the Islamic movement of Nigeria of infiltrating the protest, while around 700 people have been arrested in the first 2 days of demonstrations and have been accused of armed robbery, arson, mischief, and destroying property. Protesters have meanwhile blamed the authorities for turning their peaceful protests deadly.
The two-pronged approach of violence and propaganda has failed. The violence and repressions are just attempts to silence and control us, and the propaganda cannot sway or fool us. The struggle for a new and better Nigeria continues. We must not be tired. The future of Nigerians depend on our determination at this moment.
Africa's most populous country, Nigeria, is suffering its worst economic crisis in a generation. The inflation is at a 28-year high of over 34%. The crisis emerged after President Tinubu ended a fuel subsidy and currency controls more than a year ago. These measures were supported by the US-based World Bank and International Monetary Fund to revive the economy. However, the measures have dealt a heavy blow to Nigerians. Food prices have soared and hunger is worsening. Protesters have vowed to push ahead with the rallies, which are planned to run until the 10th of August. How will President Tinubu deal with the challenge? Now, for more on this, we have with us David Otto, a security and political expert who is joining us live from Abuja. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, the hashtag End Bad Governance protests continue in Nigeria, and the protests have turned deadly. What systemic issues have contributed to the persistence of the protests against the bad governance in Nigeria? How do these protests connect to the broader socio-economic challenges?
Well, as you rightly said, the protest was tagged bad governance, ending it, of course, because a lot of Nigerians today believe that the fundamental socio-economic issues that they are experiencing, especially the hyperinflation, the high level of cost, the ending of the fuel subsidy cost, when the president announced on the 29th of May during his inauguration that a fuel subsidy was dead on arrival when he got into power, that had a ripple effect. Of course, the economy was already bad, but the increase in the price of fuel then led to a ripple effect where the prices of goods, the cost of transportation, the daily lives of Nigerians, became extremely difficult, for people to survive, on a daily basis. So this decision, this policy and fiscal decision that was made by the president, he gave very good reasons why he thought the fuel subsidy had to be ended. He talked about the level of corruption that existed within that sector. Yeah. He talked about renewed hope, trying to revive the economy as per the last administration. Mind you well, the last administration is the same political party, the All Progressive Congress, which the current president inherited. Yeah. He has continuously blamed the situation on the previous government. But as we speak, Nigerians are experiencing a very high level of hyperinflation, and the cost of everything has become so expensive and unbearable.
Right. Now, David, who are the key organizers behind the End Bad Governance movement? Is it mainly driven by Gen Z? And what strategies are they employing to sustain momentum and to mobilize supporters and also maintain peaceful demonstrations?
I think one of the biggest challenges that this government has had is to be able to determine who are actually the organizers of this protest. This seems more or less a protest that, some have claimed the organizers are hunger, the organizers are bad governance. So they've listed some of the fundamental issues and said, these are the organizers of this protest. We don't have any leaders. The people that are leading us are the economic and social issues that they are experiencing. So a lot of the protesters are claiming that there is no actual leadership, but what has actually propagated the protest to this point is that the social media, the TikTok, Facebook, X, Instagram, all these, Internet of Things, has spread around the country, and a lot of people, are generally angered, by the situation that they are experiencing on a daily basis. So these mediums have just acted, as some kind of a forum to spread the information around. But remember that the government was given enough time to think about what responses that it could give, to the people of Nigeria. But it did focus a lot on trying to persuade or to dissuade, Nigerians from going out in the street. I mean, the government acknowledged that protest is a constitutional right, but they kept insisting that this protest will be hijacked and they will turn into riots. People are going to hijack the protests, and hoodlums are going to make it look like what happened in Lekki, in the previous protests and SARS. So the government has been trying to dissuade people rather than trying to make sure that it could respond to the fundamental issues which have been propagated on social media.
Yes, absolutely, David. And on that, how has the Nigerian government reacted to the protests? We have seen some kind of sign of dialogue, willingness to address the protesters' demands. What actions have been taken to address the demands and to prevent violence or further clashes?
Well, there has been two dimensions, actually three dimensions that the government has taken. The first dimension is that the government has tried, to propagate the narrative that the protest is not actually a genuine protest, that there are some individuals who are bent on actually taking advantage of the protest. We've seen young people that are carrying what looks like a Russian flag, but it is actually a military flag, insinuating in the part of the north that they do want the military to take over. So the government has used this narrative to say, listen, people are not really going out in the streets, to protest against hunger. Of course, there are people that are hungry, but they're saying that, people are taking advantage of this, especially talking about, IED, improvised explosive devices exploding in the part of the north. But from, moving away from that narrative, which the government has painted out very strongly, that, people shouldn't follow the protest, the government has also deployed a lot of military personnel, police officers, but they've been very clear that these officers are there to protect, they are there to ensure that this protest is not being hijacked. I mean, remember that the government had actually come up with a report by the Department of State Security saying very clearly that they had identified individuals who were bent on, infiltrating the protest. And that has been demonstrated in some areas in the north where, places have been looted and clashes have occurred between the military and the protesters. The last measure that the government has done is the speech which the president actually made. And in that speech, he talked about the pursuit of dialogue, that he wants, the protesters to resort to dialogue rather than, go on the streets to protest. But one fundamental issue that a lot of Nigerians are saying is that he did not actually address the underlying issues and propose any solutions that would make the protesters to retire.
Absolutely. David, thank you very much for your valued insights there and bringing us all the latest on the protests in Nigeria.
Thank you.
Across continents, one powerful news source.
Bringing you diverse perspectives on the issues that matter.
We go beyond the boundaries to give you that little extra about every sporting moment. So thank you for making Firstpost 5 million strong. We're counting on your support, and you can trust us to bring you the news unfiltered and unvarnished.
Climate change is on our doorstep. It's time for a revolution to take root. And it starts with 1.4 billion Indians. It starts with one tree for humanity, one tree for Mother Earth, one tree for our future. Project One Tree, a News 18 network initiative.
On the today, the T20 World Cup bandwagon has moved across to the West Indies. perspectives.
Hello, I'm Alison Green, coming to you from Durban, South Africa. Today we have a special show.
We start with a report on India's shifting nuclear posture. The first time since India officially became a nuclear power.
Hello and welcome to Firstpost America. I'm Aaron Ham, coming to you live from the nation's capital,